G'day and welcome back to another DBZ Dokkan Battle video. So in this video we are going to go through the Ultimate Clash for the month. We are going to take a look at how Ultimate Clash is lining up this month, go through all the bosses who by now we should be pretty familiar with, and just take a look at how we perform and how things go. So this month I believe the unit or the typing of Frieza is int, or no, TEQ, sorry. So it is a TEQ Frieza. So I think this month we are going to have to run a double super int team. Obviously, for those of you who don't know, Frieza, the final boss, takes reduced damage from extreme types. So having him fight against a full super int lineup is going to play more in our favor. So we're going to just quickly set up our teams to take advantage of that. Obviously I am switching out the super physical extras that we took last time. So instead of that we're going to switch in some super int ones, and we're going to take out the extreme int ones. So just for people who don't know, the general process is that we use the Ginyu Force team to take out the units in the first stage, and then we use the double super of whatever typing we need to take out Frieza in the final stage. By using the Ginyu Force or debatably the Team Bardock units, you can essentially save yourself an entire team for you to use later on when you are tackling the Frieza stage. So it's generally a good idea to proceed as such, but I mean, it's all up to you guys and you can kind of look at things however you wish to. So yeah, but obviously once we've set up our team, we are going to obviously want to take a look at the, well, we're going to want to take a look at obviously taking on the General Tao in the first phase. And then we're going to obviously use the Ginyu Force team for that, and then we'll just kind of progress through the bosses as per usual. But obviously we use the Ginyu Force for the first boss. You're going to need the Tech Ginyu lead, you're going to need the physical Ginyu, and then you should be fine from there. In general, when taking a look at the Super Int team that you're going to use for Frieza, please just make sure you obviously bring leads. Or if you are bringing teams, make sure you bring them under whatever category is applicable. In terms of the int category leads, there's obviously the youth and special pose team with Go Tanks, which I guess is okay, but not a lot of int units fall under there. There are some, but not a lot. The hybrid Saiyans team is a better option under int future Gohan, so you could run with that. And then I think, yeah, you've got the 130% lead in Gogeta as well, and 120% lead in the Vegeta Blue. So here we go, first stage, it is against General Tao. He's just immune to stunning, so nothing too crazy about him, and we'll use the Ginyu Force team to take him out. They'll be more than happy to oblige and sort him out for us, so really not too worried about this first fight. There's nothing ever really that phases me. I don't think the Ginyu Force has ever failed me in terms of the first fight of a virtual Ultimate Clash. So yeah, looking really forward to it. You know, in related news, on the JP side, they got a Shadow Dragons themed Ultimate Clash, but it seems like that one's quite tough, because from what I can gather, or at least from what you know, from what I'm seeing online, a lot of people are actually struggling with that. So it could be interesting to see if the Ginyu Force let us down there, but you know, I highly doubt it. I hope that they can get us through there, because otherwise we're gonna have to completely change up the strat. Might have to link level them a bit so that, you know, next Ultimate Clash, or when the Shadow Dragons Ultimate Clash comes, they can really help us out. But yeah, otherwise, you know, first fight pretty straightforward, nothing too crazy here. Everything's going as per usual. The next fight will be against Bota Mageta, and they are immune to stunning, immune to sealing, immune to attack lowering, and immune to defense lowering. So we're going to use the extreme strength team here. Obviously we can use Majin Vegeta as lead, we could use Resurrected Cell as lead, we can use Omega Shenron as a lead. There's plenty of leads that we can run here, so we're not too worried or anything about you know, this team. I think this is a pretty strong team. They won't have any problems with these characters that are quite tanky, that reduce damage and everything. You're going to want to get crits, so try and build your teams around units that can crit, and if they can crit, obviously have high attack stats. That's going to really help out your performance, because when they crit, they're going to actually do damage that ignores the damage reduction, and that's really going to help them, you know, basically bust out some nice attack stats, and also just clear the fight a lot faster. Like, as you can see, that crit just cleared like 5 health bars, which is obviously way more helpful than not critting and clearing out like half of a health bar. So that is just one of the build ideas, I guess, you can take into team building. Obviously, whenever you see units that are quite tanky, like Bodomageda, or maybe Lord Slug, Metal Cooler, obviously Frieza himself, you can always bring crits. Crits are a #1 option in terms of just kind of quickly nuking these opponents down. So we'll move on to level 2. Level 1 was obviously wrapped up quite quickly. We've got the Trunks now, who's immune to attack lowering. He's immune to stunning, but he can be sealed, obviously. So if you are looking to seal him up, you're welcome to go for it. We are running the Extreme AGL team. They do not have any seals. Super AGL would have seals, but we're going to just leave them just in case we need them for later on. And yeah, but we should be fine with Extreme AGL. The second level 2 is usually not such a difficult stage that it requires us to kind of pop out some of our better teams. And since Super AGL, for me at least, is way better than my Extreme AGL, I definitely want to try and save Super AGL for a little bit later. So yeah, so we're gonna just whittle at Trunks here. We shouldn't have too many problems because we have some really good defensive units on this lineup. We have some decent synergy. We're running under double 120% skills. So yeah, overall, I'm really not too worried in any way, shape or form. So yeah, at this point, really just kind of moving with the motions. Quite happy with how things are going. And yeah, as always, with Virtual Ultimate Clash, really not too worried about anything. Just kind of progressing at a good pace here and not suffering too badly with anything. So yeah, I don't think anyone will give us problems, except for Frieza at the end, who usually is the only one that gives us issues. So yeah, that is obviously always the toughest fight, the final boss of any of these Virtual Ultimate Clashes. So yeah, definitely one that we are going to need to keep our eye on, old Frieza. But yeah, we've almost finished off Trunks. Again, pretty gentle stage. Trunks obviously can hurt us quite a bit with his super attacking, but he doesn't really get the time to, because he's not necessarily overtly tanky or anything. He doesn't heal, so yeah, he's just kind of there. Our next fight will be against Oob. So Oob is tech type, so obviously we're going to bust out the int type team. And Oob is immune to stunning, immune to sealing, and he can't have his attack lowered. Obviously he's a little bit tanky, so ideally we would bring a team that can do crits. Sorry, he's AGL type. Don't know why I saw tech there. Obviously just got confused, but he is AGL type, but so that's a bit unfortunate for him, because basically Broly is going to chunk him down. But that's okay, it's obviously good news for me. But again, as always, when you're coming up against these tanky units, you really want to make sure that you bring yourself some critting units. Units that crit are obviously always going to make your time better. And especially in these situations, you can bring some units that lower defense. I know a lot of people don't rate lowering defense, but if you're not going to be able to do anything else, you might as well lower the defense and just kind of give yourself the ability to deal out some big damage. We do have some nice units for the Extreme Tech team. Obviously we have the Merge Zamasu support, we've got the SS3 Broly, we've got the Tech LR Broly, we've got Tech Golden Frieza. We've got plenty of options that we can run, you know, in terms of this stage. So overall, I think, I don't see Oob presenting too much challenge. We've got great free-to-play cards like the Lord Slug and everything, so yeah, really don't see it being too much of an issue. And I think Broly will do enough damage to basically send Oob on his way anyway. So yeah, at this point, we haven't had too many problems as usual. We're just basically running through the bosses as a quick recap. Extreme TEQ took out Oob there pretty handedly. And now we'll move on to Lord Slug. Obviously, Lord Slug's where it starts to get, minorly irritating. He's immune to stunning, immune to sealing, he's immune to attack lowering, immune to defense lowering, and he recovers around 1.5 million HP whenever he decides to regenerate his health. So he's in type, so we're going to use Extreme Physical. We have some pretty good units on Extreme Physical. I have a very LR heavy lineup, but Extreme Physical has some pretty decent units. You've got the Resurrected Frieza, you've got the new EZA Vegeta, you've got the Cooler, you've got the Movie Broly, you've got the EZA LR SJJ Broly, you've got the Dabura, you've got plenty of really good Extreme Physical units that you can run. You've got the Kid Buu support type, so there's really not a shortage of good. You've got the 50% Buu support. You've got the Majin Buu good, I believe, is also an extreme type, which is weird to say, but he is. So you've got plenty of options that you can use to take down the stage. But obviously we're going for a pretty LR heavy lineup. Sometimes I just like to use the LRs. Need to kind of, use my full box from time to time, and there's no point not using them all the time just for guards and everything. So usually during, after the first couple of virtual clashes, I like to just use my LRs as much as I can to just really enjoy myself and enjoy my box. But so Lord Slug, I can't see him giving us too many issues. Heal, which is obviously slightly irritating, but there's nothing really too worrying about that. The Goku Black EZA as well is pretty good physical units. Omega Shenron's pretty decent as well. So there are options that you guys can use to take on the stage. In terms of free-to-play options, I guess there's the Ultimate Challenge Vegeta, Majin Vegeta. He is pretty decent. There's also it's super type that, there's the second form Frieza as well, the EZA one that you can use. It's obviously a bit better against AoE units, but I mean, he will at least activate big bad bosses for someone like the Cooler. And he's got a decent link set, and he can still do some decent single target damage. So yeah, you could definitely use him, bring him along. But yeah, otherwise, I don't see this stage being any issues as well. So yeah, overall, bit irritating, bit longer as well than some of the other stages. Obviously the healing doesn't help, basically resetting some of your damage from the previous turn, but we're not going to have too many problems with this stage. So I think obviously just while all the rewards are obviously popping up on the screen, I do think we want to kind of talk about the amount of rewards you get. So for people who don't do Ultimate Challenge often, you do get around 32 stones in total, which is obviously very good going. It's a lot of stones. It's almost a full multi. And also, even though it's 32 stones, you also get a whole bunch of orbs, you get a whole bunch of cash, you get a whole bunch of Zeni, you also get some Kais as well. I think you get 3 Dozen Kais and a Mystic Kai in total. So it's definitely well worth it. Plus the battlefield currency is great. You can use it to buy a whole bunch of stuff, support items, units, really good units, LRs. So, there's no reason not to do Ultimate Challenge. Even if you are the kind of player who's new to the game, you've just reached the rank to unlock Ultimate Challenge, which I believe is 150, and you hit 150 and you now, want to try it, and you can only get past the first stage, or you can only get past the second stage, that's fine. Just clear past the second stage, get as many rewards as you can, and yeah, work on it next time. But this next fight we'll be facing good old Vegeta. It is a agility type Vegeta, which is perfect because we can use the TEQ to basically dodge every single one of his attacks and act like a super tank for us. Vegeta is immune to stunning, he is immune to sealing, and he launches super attacks with every attack, but he only ever attacks like twice on a turn, I believe. So basically you just have to survive his 2 super attacks each turn, or at least kill him before he kills you. It's usually not so bad, as long as you bring at least 1 or 2 tanks. If you kind of basically work on a 2 tank per rotation lineup, you generally come out quite fine. But then again, also if you are a bit short on tanks, you can run into some difficulties. So if you are short on tanks, try and just bring a full damage lineup and try and take him out before he takes you out, basically. Just do a whole bunch of damage and then deal with you know, surviving later on, essentially. So yeah, it's definitely one of those weirder gimmicky stages, which is what I like about the level 3 stages. They're not, you know, all so straightforward. They're not just basically pick your team and go. They do have some kind of interesting tactics to them. But Vegeta's not going to give us too many problems here. Obviously Super TEQ is one of the more powerful categories in the game, but also just in general, the fact that you can use units like TEQ who dodge all his attacks and everything is obviously quite overpowered in a sense as well, especially when he, you know, might double up on a single slot and she can essentially dodge all his attacks. Then we obviously get the active skill from units like, you know, the Go Bros, the legendary Goten and Gohan. So yeah, really don't see a problem here. We'll probably take out Vegeta relatively shortly. He's quite tanky. I mean, all these level 3 bosses are relatively tanky. I mean, they're not, yeah, you can eliminate them rapidly, but they're not, they're no pushovers. So yeah, definitely though, we'll finish with Vegeta, and then we'll just move on to the next stage. But you know, he's gonna miss every attack on Caulifla, which is a blessing. It's really awesome for us. It's gonna save us a whole bunch of worry and trouble. And then the Gobros will dish out quite a substantial amount of damage, and then we should be pretty close to wrapping up Vegeta. We'll probably finish him off with this next turn. So overall, really not too many issues with Vegeta. Obviously he did quite a bit of damage to us from those super attacks, but we'll be fine. Trunks has obviously increased his defense a little bit. We do have the God Goku, who's quite a decent tank after he supers. And then, well, the SSB Goku, I should say. And then we have the God Goku to kind of link up with him, create some rainbow orbs. But yeah, we'll be able to finish this off against Vegeta this turn. And then we should be able to move. It would be a little bit scarier, I guess, if Vegeta could stun or something, thus causing us to miss out on damage. But no, we'll be fine, especially with this double super from Trunks. We're not going to have too many problems finishing off old Vegeta. So yeah, nice and easy. And the next fight we'll do, obviously, will be Goku. So Goku is always one of the more interesting fights due to the fact that he obviously has the gimmick whereby he can one-hit KO you, essentially. Well, not always, you know, damage, like big tanks can take the damage. But essentially he can do a massive amount of damage with a single attack, which he'll count down from. And since you can't stun him, attack lower, or defense lower him, you basically have to give him seals. Now, I'm very fortunate in that I basically got a second copy of the LR Goku and Arale, and I used that copy as like a floating unit to generate rainbow orbs and to seal up units when I need to use a secondary seal. And since the Goku and Arale can actually link with this card and also seals, it's actually a really good rotation that I can sometimes use, or floaters, because they both generate rainbow orbs. But as long as you have like 3 sealers in your team, 1 floating, 1 on each rotation, or you know, all 3 of them floating, you will be fine with this stage. So that's generally what I do. And it's nice, it's very cool that you can obviously get 2 of them free to play for this round here, which, you know, like I say, is great for me. And yeah, I generally will grab, like, if there's a card from a Dokkan event that can be farmed and used for something, like, you know, the TUR of an LR, and they can be farmed and they can be linked up with that card, generally I will farm a second copy of that card, either if it's for Ultimate Clash or for Super Battle Road or anything like that. I will generally farm a second copy of that card, because usually they link great, obviously, which is fantastic for the free-to-play LR that they link with, and generally because of the decent linking, if you link level them, provide them gear, and because you can give them full dupes and full hidden potential system, generally the TUR is, I don't want to say great, but they generally manage quite well and become useful due to that. So yeah, if you do ever do a Dokkan event or a story event or something, and you see that the LR that comes from it, whether it's something like the Zamasu, you know, or a Prime Battle LR, or you know, this Goku and Arale, and you see that you can use the TUR, then I do suggest that you farm a copy of the TUR. I do suggest that you obviously use them to obviously link up with the LR and just get them as an option. Even if you just open their paths and get them to SA10, you may not use them now, you may never use them, but you have the option to use them later for challenges, for SBRs, for Ultimate Clash, like I'm using the unit right now. So yeah, there's plenty of options for you, so definitely do it. There's no reason not to. Obviously, don't do it if you're a new player, don't do it if you're going through burnout, don't do it if you're struggling currently. But if you do have some free time and you feel like it can help out your box, then do it. There's nothing wrong with going that route. And I think it's perfectly great, and I think it'll work perfectly fine. So yeah, I would definitely consider doing that, and I think it's something you should definitely look into if you are a player who's new to the game, or if you're just an experienced player, or if you've just never thought of it before. There's nothing wrong with doing it. So yeah, if there is one bit of advice I can give you, it's definitely that it will help you out in the long run. So don't be shy, go and farm yourself that TUR copy. But yeah, we've managed to keep Goku sealed up, so he's relatively harmless. He obviously still does some pretty decent damage with his normal attacks, but it's not, you know, so bad or to the point where it's unbearable. And generally our team is tanky enough to withstand the damage and dish it out accordingly. And because we have no chance of dying to the one-hit KO, we basically just outrunning Goku to the finish here. So yeah, pretty good. Quite happy with it. But yeah, Goku's done. So that leaves the two, well, I don't want to say easier, but for me, from my experience, the two somewhat easier fights in the Virtual Clash, being Hydrogeddon and Cooler. So obviously we'll start with Cooler. Cooler can not be stunned, cannot be sealed. He can be attack load and defense load, which is obviously quite helpful. And over here, he is physical type, so we do have a pretty good lineup for taking him out. We have the SS4 Vegeta, we have the Krillin, who's a pretty solid option considering he will guard automatically and gain 50% reduction. We have the B-Pan, who's, you know, quite good. We have the free-to-play Strength Vegeta LR, so there's plenty of options for you to utilize in this team. In terms of attack lowering, you could use, you know, the Pan or the Videl and Gohan free-to-play Justice Warriors card. You could use, in terms of attack lowering, there's actually some limited options on Super Strength, but overall the category is strong enough that it'll probably handle the stage perfectly fine. Obviously we're using the Majin, Vegeta and Goku, who will do some decent damage and tank really well. So yeah, at this point, you know, Cooler and Hydrogeddon for me aren't too much of a problem. Hydrogeddon can somewhat be annoying with his evasion, and sometimes he can, you know, if he evades a lot, he can give you some problems, but I've never really had a problem with Cooler. He's kind of like a slightly harder version of Lord Slug, but not really, because you can attack lower him. So if you attack lower him, he's not going to pose you that many issues at all. And as you can see, we're dealing a lot of damage to him and getting really lucky with crits. So at this point, we're really not struggling with Cooler, and we're probably going to finish him off next turn, even if he gets the heal. So yeah, Cooler at least for the super strength team, which is quite a strong category, I don't think will be too much of a problem. Yeah, it's just going to be basically if you have some units to dish out damage to him. If you really want to go the route of attack lowering him, like I said, you do have the, the Gohan and Videl strength free-to-play unit that you can use to attack lower. You do have some decent free-to-play options in the full power Goku and the Krillin. But yeah, or you can also use strength Gogeta, who has attack lowering and defense lowering. And he's really good because he obviously has his easy A. So yeah, definitely some good options there for you to use. That's Cooler done, and now we'll take on Hydreigon. So next will be Hydreigon. He's pretty similar to Cooler, just instead of health, instead of regaining health, he has evasion. So that is somewhat irritating, but overall we're not too concerned about it as long as we have units that either A, multiple super, or B, attack lower and defense lower. His super attacks won't hit us too hard, and we should be able to take him out before he takes us out. And yeah, really there's not too many issues in terms of that team. But yeah, we're going to use a super physical team. So that's obviously going to be, I don't know why I keep mixing up the toppings, but yeah, we're going to be using a super physical team. So we have some pretty good options. He does attack multiple times in a turn, so units like Vegito, the Easy A Blue Vegito, they're going to do some really good damage. Pretty much any unit that counters is a good solution against, any unit that counters and has decent damage is a good solution against Hydreigon, because he just attacks so many times, and even with all his evasion, he can't evade every single counter. So yeah, that's relatively a good strategy. If you're going to go with a strategy, try and use whatever counter units you have available to you for that typing, and then they should help you to really get Hydreigon down. Obviously in this case, that makes the Easy A Vegeta Blue one of the better options to use. So yeah, definitely one to consider. Other units you can use, obviously for the super physical, you could use like the full power Krillin, you could use the LR Goku and Vegeta Angel, you can use the LR Margin 2 Vegeta Angel, you can use, you can use so many units. It's really quite a forgiving stage. You could use the brand new Goku that's just come out. I do not have him, but you could use him, and he would be pretty rad, do a lot of damage and everything. So yeah, there's plenty of units that you can use. One of the stronger teams is a Worthy Rival team, but a pure Saiyan team or just a pure Superclass team is also really good. Obviously the SS3 Gotenks doesn't have his Easy A on global yet, and otherwise he would be a fantastic option for this stage. But yeah, you don't need to worry about it too much. You don't need like the perfect leads for this team. They've started to get a lot better leads overall, the super physical team, and the worthy rivals category is always pretty good on this team, and we do have some decent options for lead. So we do have the SSB Vegeta. Obviously Hydreigon is pretty much dead, so he's going to wrap things up for us, and then we're just left for Frieza. So yeah, everything's gone pretty smoothly. We haven't really come close to dying, so yeah, really happy with this run. Obviously we've done it a couple times now, so we're due for a change, I think, of this Ultimate Clash. But yeah, not too phased, quite happy with this. So Frieza will pop up. He is TEQ type, of course, as planned from, that's why I got confused, as planned from the first stage. So we're going to go with a all super int team here. Generally I leave my LR God Goku for a second option on the team, and leave some pure Saiyans and hybrid Saiyans to join them on that team. So we'll probably use the int Gogeta as lead, with the blue Vegeta. That will generally be the team I go with. And then obviously we can run some other units alongside that team. So with Frieza, we can't attack lower, we can't stun, we can't seal, we can't lower defense, which is, you know, a problem. He also massively lowers our defense after his super attack. He reduces damage from extreme type enemies, and he can also seal one of our units' super attacks. So he's pretty tough, but we should be fine. Obviously it's going to be a little bit difficult and challenging, which is, you know, more than fine. I brought Bulma and Goku because they're a combination that I really like together. I brought Vados because Vados has evasion. Generally I find evasion units work well against Frieza, obviously because they can dodge his super attacks, which is where a large source of his damage comes from, because the super attack deals crazy damage, but also they're just pretty good in general. Yeah, their mitigation and damage in these extremely hard events is really good, because it's basically 0 damage if they get the dodge off. Obviously it's a bit of a gamble, but I mean, sometimes you gotta live life on the edge. So yeah, pretty happy with that. Obviously Kid Goku gets supered, because that's the way the world works. So that's gonna put us in a little bit of a tight bind. Remember, when Frieza supers someone, he basically lowers their defense massively. A unit like Ribrianne also is not going to be as impressive as she was against a unit like Jiren, because Frieza's attack can't be lowered. So Ribrianne's actually just here as like a base unit, and Ribrianne's a very decent base unit, but without that attack lowering, she is somewhat nerfed, or kind of yeah, her effectiveness is reduced quite heavily, because we obviously don't have that ability to reduce the amount of damage he does offhand. Gogeta should be fine, especially if he gets a double super. There we go. Double super will greatly raise his defense twice, which will obviously leave him in a pretty decent position. He's also doing some decent damage. Obviously we have somewhat reduced stats, so we are going to be just a little bit lower in terms of attack damage than we usually are with some of these units, but it's not too much of an issue. The one really nice thing about Bulma, obviously, is she has high chance of evasion even without Goku in the turn, so she can really help us out with that level of evasion. It does, you know, really help with evading super attacks and reducing a lot of the damage that Frieza does. This turn should be okay. Vegeta, once he supers, will obviously stack his defense, which will really help us. Vados is giving a good buff to Vegeta as well, and her evasion should keep her from getting into too much trouble. And then Ghost Tanks will get a couple Rainbow Orbs, so we should be okay there and get a little bit of healing back in return. He also raises his defense on his super attack, so he should be fine defensively. He will be a bit fragile to a super attack though, because we didn't get like 3 or 4 Rainbow Orbs. I think we only got 2 there, so yeah, it is a little bit unfortunate. We are maybe lagging a little bit behind in terms of damage. Obviously we'd like to be ahead of Frieza in terms of our health compared to his, but yeah, we're doing quite well. And this double super attack from Ghost Tanks will really help with his defense, and also just with chunking down Frieza a little bit more. And then he's of course going to super us afterwards on the one unit we didn't want to get supered, so yeah, that's gonna dish some very decent damage to us, but we should be okay. We are now going to rely a little bit on maybe getting some evasion from Bulma here, which is obviously gonna, you know, pay some big dividends. And we'll use the Goku active skill, one of my favorite active skills in the game. Super effective in every bit of content that it's in. Really helps you out of a tight bind, and it's going to really help us here because it's basically just a free crit super attack. So yeah, really good damage. One of the best damage dealing abilities, helps me out plenty SBR. If anyone's got Kid Goku, he's a beast. So yeah, enjoy him, use him as much as you can. You're not going to be disappointed, that's for sure. Gogeta's doing really well. dishing out some good damage. He got the dodge off as well, which is great. His kit is really good, especially when you get a couple rainbow orbs. We didn't get the extra super attack there, which would have helped us out. So we're going to rely on Bulma and Goku, basically, to evade whatever super attack. Yeah. And yeah, okay, so there we go. Bulma proved it worth. We got the evasion, and yeah, we'll finish him off. So there we go, guys. That is the Virtual Ultimate Clash from DBZ Dokkan for this month. Done nice and early as well, so we can just do the missions for the additional completions and the weekly stages as well. So yeah, really quite happy with that. Wasn't as hard as I expected, but I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. But until then, cheers, stay safe, and bye.